and our Earth has got a fever. Our Earth is a little bit sick, and it's been telling us that for a while. And so many of you and many of us have been involved in trying to do something about that. And so I want to talk a little more particularly about that and share one person's story. And that person is Aaron Itczak. I've invited him in to share during this sermon time. Aaron grew up good Catholic kid in Illinois and grew up as an educator and now works at Cerner. And actually at Cerner, he is on the Cerner Green Team, which he helped kind of really launch, and working with reducing their carbon footprint and working with that massive company to become greener. He's also a part of the KC Green Business Network. And so, Aaron, I want to invite you in and welcome you. And thanks for sharing a little bit about your story and your growth as a person trying to care for this hot earth of ours.
Thank you, Paul. And good morning, everybody. Happy Sunday. Before I get started, I want to give you a little background into my journey, where it's all kind of started. That's me. When I was a kid, I've always, at least as far as I've known, as long as I've known, I've been passionate about the environment. When I was a kid, I would get angry when trees were needlessly cut down or when people would litter, which prompted me in high school, there it is, to be a part of the environmental club. And then later, when I was the dean of students at 2 elementary schools, I helped expand their recycling program. The environment has been a spiritual kind of experience for me, whether I go for a walk in the woods or whether I work in my yard. It gives me this feeling that I'm a part of something bigger than myself. And I can't help but feeling connected to other things around me.
Hey, Aaron?
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, while you're quarantined, have you and Jimmy done any, gourd making, like the thing you've got in your hand there? Have you guys done any kind of?
No, that thing has long since passed, and okay. we haven't done anything crazy, but we talked about actually doing some creative stuff, needing to activate that creative outlet. So you never know.
Right.
Yeah, we need to grow some gourds though. We're a little bit behind there. But spring is starting and gardening is happening. Our neighbors are starting. So we're composting. We're starting the building blocks for that process. So a couple months, you never know.
All right.
With that spiritual journey, a lot of you know that last year I got a tattoo. And part of the significance for that too, for me, has been that spiritual journey. There's a lot of other meaning behind that tattoo. So feel free to ask me next time you see me or online at some point. And if you want to know what extra meaning is behind that too, I am happy to share. As Paul had mentioned earlier, I lead the green team at Cerner, which we call the Eco Warriors. That is our logo there on the screen. And it really all started from me just asking a question of, where do I recycle batteries? And since then, our group over the past year has grown from 24 to 720 members. I meet with executives on a regular basis, and we have executive support. And the reason I share all that is I didn't think I could make a difference. And you might be thinking the same thing as well. But I want you to know that you can. All you have to do is ask a question and be willing to sit and be a part of the answer. So some of the things, thank you. Some of the things that our group does, we share sustainable stores. New things pop up all the time. And so we let people know what sustainable stores are in the area to shop there, especially now more than ever, to keep them in business. We also share ideas on how to repurpose and reuse things. We organize carpooling. We collect and recycle batteries and prescription bottles. And we also offer either donated or plates from Goodwills. We keep them in our desk as an alternative for people to use instead of the styrofoam plates in the break room. And as Paul mentioned earlier, I'm a part of the Green Business Network, which is a local nonprofit here in Kansas City, and it's an amazing resource. They've helped me kind of start this. They help businesses start this process with whether it's audits or resources. And so if you or your school, your business are looking at how do I start this, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. They can help. And once you're even a member like myself, like we have meetings, we share ideas, other people in businesses, like how did you overcome these obstacles? And we tour facilities and get ideas. an amazing resource. I can't speak highly or more highly about them. So on Jimmy is actually going to chat a resource document. The Green Business Network is listed there, and I'm going to reference this resource list, a lot of R's there, throughout this presentation. The contact information for the Green Business Network is listed under Bridging the Gap. That's the overarching organization. The Green Business Network is just one element or one branch of it. So in case you're looking at that sheet and you're wondering, how do I contact the Green Business Network? Look for Bridging the Gap. So just wanted to throw that out there.
Great.
A lot of people ask why, because while I've been passionate about this my entire life, or like I said, at least as long as I can remember, my activism has really only kind of skyrocketed over the last couple of years. So a lot of people ask, well, what's the difference? What's the change? And I have to say, it is this guy. This is Jimmy, my husband. Today actually marks 5 years exactly from the first time we met. That's actually a picture from our first date.
Wow,
and
congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's gone by so fast. I can't believe it's been 5 years. And we're in the adoption process now, and we want to have a family. That's a picture of our nephew and niece, Emerson and Mason. They are watching actually right now from Indianapolis as we speak. We want to have a family, and science shows that we have about 10 years or so before irreparable damage with climate change takes its toll. And our kids, we're going to hand this to them. They're not going to have a say in it. This might be the first generation that has it worse off than us. And so when our kids ask us, they go, Dad, when you had a chance to do something, what did you do? I want to have an answer that I'm proud of. And that's kind of fueled me getting involved more at work and my community and in my own backyard.
Good for you. That's fantastic.
You.
So Aaron, if we wanted to do something, and we don't necessarily have to do exactly what you've done, but what basic kind of tips would you give to folks? What can you do about this whole process, this whole problem?
Based on my research, I think everything kind of boils down to 2 buckets. And the first bucket is, I'm going to actually jump ahead here.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. You want me to go back?
What was that last image? I'm sorry.
Oh, sure. So actually, our own Alex Treaster shared this heat map with me. This is a part of many cities in this article, but this is LA, and it's a satellite image over LA taking readings of pollution, particularly nitrogen and carbon dioxide. And the image on the left is Los Angeles a year ago in March.
Wow.
The one on the right is this March. And obviously there's a difference because of everything that's going on with this quarantine. And while this is a benefit of a horrible situation, it is going to be temporary. It's not going to last forever. So like you had mentioned, which I think is a great comparison to our fever and the Earth's fever, are we paying attention to the signs now to do something after this is all better?
Because clearly this shows that with some changes, obviously this is a catastrophic change and everyone's staying home. This isn't something, like you said, that's sustainable. But clearly our actions or lack of action does have a pretty quick impact on the earth, and so we do have an ability to affect change.
Yeah, we do. And I have a couple ideas. If you're asking that question yourself, like, well, what can I do? You feel like a small wheel in this big operation. Like I said, there's 2 buckets. One bucket as a whole is individually. What can you and your family do? And so I have 2 ideas within this bucket. And the first is plant a tree. One mature tree produces enough oxygen to support 2 adults. We have a symbiotic relationship with trees, as that graphic shows. They produce oxygen, which we breathe in. We breathe out carbon dioxide, which they breathe in. So it's a nice circle. However, we have way more carbon dioxide out there than there are trees to handle. And so planting more trees will definitely help. It won't solve everything, but it will definitely help. That symbol between the one and the image, that is Bridging the Gap, the resource that I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
They're always looking for volunteers. So if you live in an apartment or you don't have room to plant trees in your own yard, once the quarantine's all done, feel free to reach out to them. They're always looking for volunteers. They plant free trees in certain zip codes here in Kansas City. So reach out to them for that resource. The other idea that I have for what you and your family can do is eat less meat. One hamburger, what it takes to produce one hamburger from start to finish, just the fossil fuels are enough to fuel a car to go 20 miles. That's just the fossil fuels, let alone the land, the water, the other resources that it takes. And that's just one hamburger. So if you look at your meals for a week, especially right now, grocery shopping, this could help save money. Try to dial back on one meat meal a week. You don't have to go vegan. If you do, great. But if you're like, I'm not ready to make that type of commitment, I really like my meat, I am one of those people, just try to eat less. That makes a big difference and affects supply and demand.
That's great.
Yeah. Well, thank you. The other bucket, like I mentioned, there are two buckets. That was the individual. Like if we all planted trees and we all ate less meat, that would help greatly. But it's not going to be the type of scale change that we need to make the big difference. We need to really move that needle in these 10 years. So for example, like if I wanted to reduce the amount of plastic, but plastic is the only thing that I can buy in the store, that's a problem. That's a system change we need.
Right.
And so in this bucket, the systemic changes are shop at sustainable stores. In that resource list that was chatted early, there's a list of brick and mortar places that you can go in, as well as some online stores here locally that you can shop at and support. Especially now, we want to keep them in business. The more people go to them, the more they will expand in their offerings, and the more other current stores, if they see like wow, people really want to buy sustainable things, they want your money, they're going to offer those products. You can even reach out to your current stores and say, hey, where's the items that have sustainable packaging? The more that you put out there, the more they're going to, like I said, supply. They want your money. You have the power here. Vote with your wallet. Yeah. And this last one is, in my opinion, the biggest one. It's policies and priorities. Nothing is going to change. For example, recycling. What you can recycle in Chicago when I lived there, you can't necessarily recycle here in Kansas City. There are no guidelines. Some places don't even offer recycling. There's no national standard. We need to reach out to our representatives, our political leaders who are supposed to represent our views and say, please make this a priority. In that resource list, there is a sample letter that I found online. I did my own tweaking to it. Feel free to use it and tweak it yourself. Maybe during this quarantine, if you need something to do, have a family writing campaign. In that letter too, there at the top, there is a link to look up who your reps are, and it provides their contact information so you can email them directly. I try to make it as easy as possible.
Thank you.
Hey, you're welcome. So please write them, and also then research. We need elected officials that will make the environment a priority. So as future elections happen, make sure you know who is in line with that. That's the biggest way that we're going to make change happen.
Great. And Aaron, where's that list of resources again? How can people find that?
It is on, so Jimmy chatted it earlier, and it might be buried in the thread. So in case you can't find it, it is also on Second's website, and it will be there for at least a while. I don't know how long it'll be out there, but at least it is there, so you can check it out at any time. If for whatever reason you can't find it, or you have questions about it or anything that I've presented today, you can use my email address there, and you can ask me questions. Also, feel free to email me ideas. We learn best from each other. I don't know it all. I'm still learning myself. So if you have cool ideas, please share them with me. I'm very, very open to that. And that's a picture of that resource list up on the screen as well.
Great.
Thank you.
Great. Any concluding words?
Well, like I said earlier, it's been a very spiritual journey for me, but like anything, nobody likes to go at it by themselves. So I invite you to go on this spiritual journey with me, and let's see what we can do.
All right. Great. Thank you, Aaron, for listening, for paying attention, and doing all that you've done.